Officer Lal joins me on set yet again for the latest installment of Police and You. Today's talking point, a very important one, Facebook marketplace purchases. Now, I would safely say Acting ASP Lal would have, on this same program, over the last couple of months, talk about this time and time again, and I guess it's a chance again to bring information to the table, because I would imagine when these crimes are reported, when there is an uptick, you have to remind people that, yes, if it's too good to be true, it might just be that, and how to conduct your business when you're buying stuff online, the best strategy going forward. Let's welcome Officer Lal yet again. And happy Independence, by the way.
Hey, thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Thank you, your staff, members of the public, Trinidad and Tobago, on behalf of the Commissioner of Police and all the sworn and unsworn officers. We'd like to wish Trinidad and Tobago a happy, prosperous, and safe independence.
Before we even get into today's talking point, you ever took part in the Independence Parade?
Yeah, I used to take part in the vehicle parade.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so we do the drive-bys,
Okay.
and we had our vehicles following our parade officers.
Nice.
In uniform, representing the military arm, the paramilitary arm of the TTP, of Trinidad and Tobago, and it's always a pleasure to represent the state of Trinidad and Tobago, the red, black, and white. Mm-hmm. And, it's something that we're trying to push throughout the TTPS, the members of the public, to get back that level of patriotism to the country and, obeying laws and following the rule of law.
Of course, very important. So, Facebook purchase marketplace, is it that people being robbed? Is there uptick? You're seeing cases where people coming in and it's almost like they get put in place?
Well, there was a recent uptick, as it related, to use your words, an increase of persons wanting to sell vehicles through the Facebook marketplace. And when persons are interested, they go into what we call, or what they refer to as a work-to-own arrangement.
What is that, if for those hearing that arrangement for the first time?
Now, there are some persons who may not be able to purchase a vehicle through a bank or a financial institution and would be enticed. As I always indicate, if it's too good to be true, it may in fact be too good to be true. And these individuals be enticed to go with a deposit. Mm. So you don't have a job, you don't have pay slip, you don't have a regular income. These individuals say, don't worry, come, you get a car, however you make your money, you pay us. So you pay them a deposit, and what happens is that there's no legal contract there. In most instances, they accept the deposit. Vehicle is never delivered. And there's no contract to show, or even a receipt. Because what the individuals tend to do as well is say, here we're going I forgot the receipt book in my office. So when I come back, we shall organize. And there's no return.
And people still handing over their cash with that kind of story?
Hand over, and no driver's permit, no certified ownership. And even if they provide a certified ownership, the onus is on that individual to do searches and checks to determine whether or not the vehicle is in fact that same vehicle. Carry a mechanic to see if the vehicle is roadworthy.
So let me ask you, if there's no paper trail, what's the recourse for someone who's been duped? Is there still, you could still launch an investigation?
You could still launch an
justice?
investigation. How successful the prosecution may be an issue, because there may be no proof that there was in fact a handover of money. They could also proceed via civil, because in relation to civil, it's a balance of probabilities. But in criminal law, the police have to prove beyond reasonable doubt.
So what's your recommendation this morning, ultimately, to just stay away from these Facebook marketplace purchases?
No, obviously no, because there are certain instances where persons use the platform who are legitimate persons, who use the platform because it's very wide. In most instances, you don't have to pay to to send out your product or your services, and it gives legitimate people the opportunity to expand their businesses to that small geographical location. And what we are asking is that if you're going to make purchases over a certain amount of money, especially a vehicle, land, or anything like that, get legal advice before you part with your money. You're going to buy a vehicle, get a certified copy. Don't be in a hurry to hand over money. If the person says, well, if you don't take it now, I'm going to sell the car down and get a better offer. Well, sirs, well, you go ahead. I will try my best to do my searches. I want a certified copy. Apply for a certified copy, make sure it matches, carry a mechanic. I know it's very lengthy, but in that way, they want to also get a proper contract as well. Because you want to ensure that we know you're working hard for your money. We don't want you to lose your money, and then now we have to go and try to prosecute an individual to get some kind of compensation and to punish the individual.
Are there plans for any kind of sting operation? Let's say there is a particular culprit who is doing this time and time again to literally put them in place to, because we have seen that kind of entrapment done with law enforcement overseas. Any kind of plans to do a sting to get people who clearly using this platform for?
Well, I'm glad that you raised that, because we actually held 2 individuals.
Based on a sting?
Based on a sting operation.
Okay, great.
And hence the reason for bringing this to the attention of members of the public, to not be fooled by these enticements.
And so it's mostly cars they're using? That's the big hustle, that's the big scheme?
Right now, the major scheme is the work-to-own arrangement.
So people need to be very mindful with that kind of...
Very mindful. When you're purchasing vehicles, make sure you get a certified copy, enter into a contract, even if it's simple in writing terms. But you have to get the terms in writing so that you could prove that you entered into this arrangement with this individual.
And that will stand up in terms of the terms, the paperwork, that will stand up in a court of law?
It will, definitely it will. And it is up to, at the end of the day, for the court to determine who is telling the truth.
But if this person, let's say, literally selling a whole dream, sometimes they might not even give their real name.
Exactly.
People will give all kind of fake name, they'll have fake ID. People will go, it have real pranks, I mean not pranksters, but smart man and smart woman out there.
And
schemers.
It's very, very important to also find out, get to know the person who you're purchasing from, find out whether or not you have any references as well. So we have, and as a prosecutor, yes.
References.
As a prosecutor in the first court, I have seen many matters like that before the court, where individuals have believed that they get a good deal, purchase items from an individual, and in some instances, the receipts were good enough, and in some instances, the individuals are repeat offenders as well.
What's the maximum? I mean, I know obviously every case will be dealt with on an individual basis, but from what you've seen over the years, those who are charged with fraud and, attaining money through false pretenses and stuff, what's like the maximum?
Well, in the maximum in the magistrate's court, it is up to 5 years. And
5 years.
It could increase if the prosecutor recommends that the matter go to the High Court and go for a judge.
And what will take a matter from the magistrate's court now to the High Court?
Now, the police officers would look at the person's criminal records, and as a prosecutor, they have the option to indicate to the court, having regard to the background of this individual, this person already served time. It is the suggestion of the prosecution that the matter goes before the High Court for a more serious charge and a more serious sentence.
Is this in the realm of just fraud, or we will look at this as more white-collar crime?
Actually, it's for nearly all the offenses. So a person who is a known criminal, a known house store breaker, he, on initial charges, he may be faced with 5 years maximum. But if we see that this person is a repeat offender, the prosecution could recommend that the matter goes to the High Court, but the maximum penalty there will be 10 years.
But people who, as I said, in terms of, obtaining money through false pretenses, fraudsters, is that considered under the white-collar crime segment?
Depending on the value of the amounts.
Also, it's really based on the amount.
Depending, but majority of it will fall under fraud offenses. And we have seen matters where persons have done different type of frauds and even selling land.
I'm not going to ask you about land and land.
And land has the same connotations. If you're going to purchase land, you have to ensure that it is in writing.
No, but I mean...
You have to do your searches.
Well, I'm sure with land, you'll have to have a lawyer to do searches, and, I mean, they will have certain prerequisites.
We would think so, Mr. Williams. We would think so, because there are some persons who also would purchase what we call squatting lands. A person might block around a piece of land and say, well, I keep in that day. You could organize and we get a letter of comfort for you.
So long, you're selling state land
Some persons do that as well. And this is our next important thing we have to be careful of, that you cannot sell state land. The only person that administers state land is the Land Settlement Agency.
Wow. This is quite a interesting one. So you're saying land and car sales seem to be the go-to for these fraudsters?
They are, because some individuals, again, the modus operandi is the same. And even there are some persons and institutions who would promise to purchase vehicles and never deliver the vehicles as well. And you need to get a background of these individuals as well.
Explain that one.
There are some persons who actually operate under as though they are legitimate businesses, have a proper letterhead, all these things, but they indicate that they will purchase vehicles for you, but they never deliver the vehicles.
So let me ask you, a fraudster gets word that you all are onto them and they decide to leave the country. They remove themselves. Is there any system in place at the airport for anytime they return, whether it be 5, 10, 15 years from now, that from the time they touch, are they going to be red flagged? Is it a scenario where people who would have left because of fraud, if they return for any reason, could we grab them?
In addition to extradition laws, yes, there are. But I can't go into the details. But we do have systems in place for persons who are interested in, who the police have interest in. We could have certain holes and certain red flag raised.
We can't bring them we could bring them back from foreign jurisdictions?
Depending on the type of, these are a number of matters and factors that the law enforcement agencies, together with the central authority, have to consider whether or not in the best interest should this person be returned to Trinidad to face his crimes.
What about foreign fraudsters who come to Trinidad and Tobago and try to come here as a safe haven?
And we have seen a number of extradition matters before the courts as well. So there are action being done by different law enforcement agencies to ensure that persons are brought to justice.
Before we wrap things up, Officer Lal, I heard recently some firearms taken off, illegal firearms taken off the street. Could you elaborate?
Yes, and in addition to ensuring the safety of members of the public, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service continue to seize firearms. And
what kind of gun is that? That's a handgun.
Yes.
Glock? What was this? A pistol?
This is what we call a revolver. Revolver means that.
Okay.
And I can say it resembles a revolver because I am not a firearm expert.
What is this here now?
Well, this appears to be a high-powered weapon. It appears to be a rifle, and what appears to be 3 magazines and several rounds of ammunition.
It's maximum damage with something like that.
And the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service continue to do our job by removing these firearms from the streets and bring the perpetrators before the courts.
Well, let me tell you, Officer Lal, I want to thank you again for coming on this morning again. Independence greetings to you and your team. Next week, we'll get a chance to do it again.
Thank you most kindly, sir.
You're most welcome. Police on You, another very informative segment. We're going to come back with our Omega XL health tip after the break.
the fun.